Sometimes you can hear about a law and it's going to come up in about 6 months' time and you want to make a change. But sometimes there's an instant and you need to immediately change your terms and conditions and say, why didn't we have something in our terms and conditions to cover that? So it doesn't matter how well organized all your systems and your company are, if one member of staff happens to do something that wrecks your reputation or does something illegal or means you have to give all the money back to the customer because it's so awful. And we do know of agencies where this has happened and it's been six-figure sums. Then obviously you want to make sure that that is not just explained to your staff as something they shouldn't do, and they should be clear about it. And 99% of people, 99.99% of people will then agree with it and be aware of it. But also you want to make sure that there's some comeback on the member of staff. The thing I mentioned yesterday when we were talking about vetting, the member of staff that let somebody down in the Metro Centre in Gateshead, that particular prospect of ours at the time, literally as we arrived at his company, he said he was going to floor it because he had to give this large consumer brand back the 10 grand that they had and compensation, the 10 grand fee that he had already. And of course, that member of staff was still expecting to be paid, even though he behaved in an absolutely appalling fashion in public in front of the mystery shopper from the brand. So it's very important to be able to update your terms and conditions because it then allows you to say only those people who've agreed to the terms and conditions have worked for us. Now, we know that in real life, you sometimes have people that haven't agreed to your terms and conditions. Sometimes you have people you haven't vetted because you have to get the contract done, but at least you have the option and you know who has agreed to your terms and conditions. And we have reports, which I'll show you in the demo in just a moment, to show who has signed. And then you have the ability to be able to mail those people who have not signed to be able to say, come along, you've got to sign, jump on the staff portal and sign your terms and conditions. Okay, so basically, why is this important? So you need this option to be able to say, I need to know who has agreed to my terms and conditions. I've got enough people and I only want people who've got rights to work, right terms and conditions and so on. And you need to know who has signed the terms and conditions and who is safe to work on those contracts. The reason that you'd want to change your terms and conditions, that you need to change them really quickly and really easily and audit who has signed them off. Sometimes it's legal changes, sometimes the market changes and customers expect something different. Sometimes, very, very often, it's incidents. As you work within a company, things come up that you just would never have believed. Maybe some other agency knew about them, but you would never have believed these things could have happened. Obviously your business changes as well. Your payroll supplier might change or your pension plans might change or something like that. And you need to be able to communicate that to staff and get them to sign off on it. You've got to make it really easy for staff to sign off. And I believe that the easiest and legally binding way is to get them to read the terms and conditions so that they have to click on the link before they can agree to it. And then they click a link to agree to either one total set of terms and conditions or to multiple sub-agreements. So for example, you might have a separate sub-agreement for privacy or a separate sub-agreement for image rights or something, or a separate sub-agreement to do with whatever assets of the company, like uniforms and company stock that they're using, iPads and so on. It has to be auditable and it has to be transparent, fair, and you need to have management reports of who's done what. Now, in addition to showing you the system, I think it's worth just mentioning that there are quite a lot of agencies who make their money by providing you with a system of often a document about 2 inches thick. And if you comply with that system, then they will deal with all of your court cases against employees. And the issue with that is they very often make the system quite difficult to use. So they might say that you have to use paper or you have to have e-signatures. And I'm just not sure where those things stand legally. But if you use one of those organizations, I'm thinking of one or two in particular, one beginning with P that's very common, that you probably need to take independent legal view on whether you need these e-signatures and paper and personalization, because if you do, then you'd have to be using, in addition to the facilities I'm going to be showing you today, you'd have to be using the mail merge facilities to provide personal contracts for people and probably get hold of an e-signature system as well. But we're not talking about that today. We can help you if you want to use that stuff. So here are all your members of staff joining, and as they go through their journey, obviously it's very, very important that you identify the things that you would expect of them behavior-wise, and the quality levels that you're obviously pitching to your customers in terms of their behavior, the way that they deal with things, and so on. So the workflow for terms, conditions, admin. First of all, you would want to, some incident comes up, or a law changes, or your pension policy changes, and you would take, let's say, your 2020 agreement, which has, in this demo example, 2 items in it: don't run with scissors and don't wear orange and red. And then, in addition to that, you would have your 2021 agreement. And your 2021 agreement has 3 things, and it says no dancing when doing traffic management. It would be funny if that wasn't such a tragic thing as a real life one. Somebody was dancing around and somebody went the wrong way with a car. So basically, in this case, it's an incident that's changed, but it could easily be that you might say, oh my goodness, we have been taking pictures of our stewards and putting them on LinkedIn, and one of our stewards has complained that it contravenes his image rights and he wants money from us, so we need to add in, I don't know, image rights, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, you would add all of those things together. You would then update your contract, presumably put it past your legal people. And then once you've done that, you would be able to add it to the system, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, through a function called Terms and Conditions Admin. You then want to reset the latest contracts. So you want to say, this is now our latest contract. And on doing that, everybody who has a tick to say they've signed up, that tick goes away and it immediately switches the staff portal on to make them tick that they have to agree to the new terms and conditions. And I'm just going to bring a staff portal demo up in just a moment as we talk in order to be able to show you that. So I'm just bringing up a staff portal here to show you that in just a moment. You then need to they would have to read the link. They can't just tick the box without reading it. They have to read it, or they have to at least click on the link to have a look at it. I'm going to show you how that works on the staffing app. And you need to be able to report on who has not agreed terms, and you need to know that you can mail them. You could mail them a survey. You could say, look, do you want to leave the company? Are you still interested in working? If it's somebody very important, you'd say, did you just miss this? But if it's somebody who's a pain in the neck anyway and doesn't agree to terms and conditions because they don't want to be bound by inequality, then depending on whether you've got lots of spare staff or whatever, you may want to change that around. So here's the demo. First of all, I've shown you how you can just make your contract changes. Obviously, with your real contracts, that's a rather bigger, more complex, scary thing, and it probably involves lawyers' fees. It's obviously just to push home this thing about proof of ID and vetting. It's obviously very important to identify that the counterparty actually exists and is not a false name with a false email address working for you. We then need to replace the old contracts. So to do that, we go and get an online document link and we put it into the Terms Conditions Admin, which is here. So if I just drag that over, here's Terms Conditions Admin. And as I've mentioned in the slide here, you get Terms and Conditions Admin by going to Admin and then Dropdowns Admin. If I can find my admin system. So you go to Admin here, Dropdowns Admin, and you'll find it in Dropdowns Admin in Terms and Conditions Admin here, that one there. So that's where you find your Terms and Conditions Admin. So going back to it, and of course I've now lost it, so I'll just need to go and grab it. Luckily I kept that there. So if I go back to Admin, of course that's replaced it. Dropdowns Admin, Terms and Conditions Admin, let's just jump straight in there. So this is the present live one, this thing from 3rd of November 2020. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to put a new contract up there. So it's the 2021 contract. And luckily, where I just put it in before, it's got all that saved. So I can get rid of this little thing on the notepad. If you don't know the link, basically you would make the link by uploading the document possibly to a secure part of your website, or the best idea is to use Accelerate Knowledge Management. So this is a link that comes from the knowledge management system when I put it in knowledge management. And remember, I'm just going to hit save here so I don't lose it. Remember, knowledge management comes from here, this thing here, and within knowledge management, we get an admin system. And in our demo system, like your system, you'll have one thing to do with company terms and conditions or contractual terms. And you can see what I've done here is I've just said, right, these are terms conditions 2021, some keywords if I want to search for that document. And then I've uploaded the URL. So I know it's in the documents directory in the knowledge. So I've just made up that URL to be able to put up there. But this is just a nice way to be able to upload a document if you want to use it for any reason. For example, if you want to use it as the privacy agreement before people fill in your application forms. And don't forget, because you need to make sure you train your staff. We get a lot of people who give us the full employment contract to put on an application form. Of course, that's precisely where you don't want it, because your competitors that can then read it. Having a good employment contract is part of your competitive edge, really. So I've already saved that, so I don't need to do any more with that. Going back to the documents admin, I now need to reset this. So what exactly does that do? Well, I reset it earlier this morning, and if I go and find a body, so this chap here, Johnny Tester, that we've met before, if we look at his lookups, where's his lookups gone? There they are. There they are. Right. So if we look at his lookups, then down here, you'll see staff agreed to terms and conditions, and the answer is no. So he hasn't agreed to his terms and conditions. What a scally. You can see that in the past, though, he has agreed. He agreed in 2017, 2014, and he agreed to a test. I don't know when we did that, probably 2018 or something. And so we know that this chap hasn't, because this lookup here says he hasn't. So I could just turn that to a yes, but obviously he hasn't then read them and agreed them. So if we look at the people who have or have not agreed them, there is a report in most of your systems, if not just switch it on, called the Staff Terms Conditions Report. If I click on that, then I get this report up here, and I've taken it back to quite a long time ago, so that I can see all the people that have signed up their terms and conditions. And of course, it records when in the system. So if somebody says, oh, I never knew I wasn't supposed to wear that I was supposed to wear black shoes whenever I turn up for a security job or something, you can say, well, look, you agreed to that in the terms and conditions there and there, and it's been in our terms and conditions for 3 or 4 years. So it's very difficult for them to say, well, I never read that because I'm illiterate or something. You'd have to basically ask them how the dickens they logged into the staff. I mean, you've had these conversations with staff, I'm sure. So if we look at John Tester, I can never remember if he's an HN or a JON. If we look at John Tester, you can see here that this guy has signed up to terms and conditions before, but he's not signed up to the one that we want him to sign up, which is the 2021 contract. And the reason for that is it's not live and he hasn't logged into his portal yet. So if I go back to terms and conditions admin, just here, what I can do now is I can set this one to be the live one. So this one is now an active document, and save that. And I can make sure that as I reset the terms and conditions, I think I already reset them, that is now the live document. So the previous one, this one here, the previous 2020 document, or wherever it is, that one there, is now no longer live. I think I might have popped this in twice, this thing. So, but anyway, this is the live document. So now what happens is we've replaced the old document. And in the next slide, I'm going to demonstrate that you can add other links if you like. And the staff portal is blocked until they read and agree with it. So let's go just have a quick look at this. So I'm now going to entertain you, talk amongst yourselves for a while I sort this out. So I'm just going to log him out. Here we go. And then I'm going to connect up. There we go. I think this thing has to, looks like it's already connected. Good. So old Johnny logs in like he does every year. every day rather. It checks all his settings, does all the usual stuff. And as soon as he goes into edit view his current events, say, or edit his profile, it says, oh, wait a minute, you've got to agree to some new terms and conditions. So he has to read those terms and conditions, and they'll be the ones with the 3 terms that I had here. So there's the document. He can open that with whatever one that he wants to. Office, let's say. He can see his terms and conditions here. I have no idea what all this stuff is. He can see those terms and conditions, including the 2 amended terms and conditions that we had. He can then go back to his previous application and he can confirm that he's agreed them and enter the portal. So now if we go back to his record and we look at his lookups again, which are clearly going to disappear somewhere around here. I think I'll just close them and bring them up because I keep losing them in amongst all the windows. There we go. So if we go to his terms and conditions, Control F is my friend here. We have so many lookups on these damn things. So we can see, he's signed the terms and conditions contract 2021, and also in a yes, there should be a yes somewhere for his terms and conditions here. Agreed to contract, yes, we should have put them together really. There we are, staff agreed to terms and conditions. So he's now become a yes. So that means he can go straight into the portal anytime you like. And also in your management report over here, so if I now reload that report, you can see that we've got the 2 extra sign-offs here because I've obviously put in 2 management reports like a fool. But we've got that 2020 sign-off at just there. Now, obviously, I was daft enough to hit reset twice and put it in twice, but you can see that he signed off that contract. And where this gets even cleverer is sometimes contracts get quite big, and you want to break them down into smaller contracts. So this other links you can add. We'll just go to the next slide. It could be separate sub-agreements. So we have things that have a separate payroll claims, expenses claims agreement, privacy agreements, separate agreements for pensions, and what's the other one? Image rights, all kinds of stuff. If you want to break your main agreement down into sub-agreements. You can also put surveys and quizzes and important news. I mean, important news, a better idea for important news is to use the notifications on the staff app. But surveys and quizzes, I never thought of this, but you can put any link into your document, into your terms and conditions admin. And we had a brief from the HR manager of a security and stewarding company in Watford a couple of years ago, and we did a very, very successful quiz where, as the staff entered their portal, instead of signing the new terms and conditions, which I don't recall they needed to do, a tick box came up and said, we're doing, for want of a better word, an amnesty on all the kit. And they had a questionnaire. This lady, Karen, and I put this questionnaire together over the New Year period. And as staff logged in after, I think, January 1st, if I recall, everybody could say, oh yeah, I've got 3 t-shirts and I've still got some boots from something. I've got a walkie-talkie. And basically all the staff said what stock they had. And obviously that was really useful because they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of staff, all with bits and pieces. So they were then able to know what needs to come back to the warehouse and what things they'd say, oh, just hang on to it because you're going to be using it at Kempton next week or whatever. So you can use all sorts of other links. So hopefully that has explained how terms, conditions and admin works. What I would say about it is there are lots of things where we sort of grit our teeth when people ring in and ask us about a really simple admin thing that they could do themselves. But terms, conditions, admin, we realize you only do it one end of the year or another, maybe once every 2 years. Perhaps it should be more frequent, but we realize that you don't do that very frequently. So if you're ever unsure about terms, conditions, admin, please do give support a call and we'll help you launch your new terms and conditions for staff. Many of our customers do it every 6 months because their terms and conditions change, and it's mostly real things like dancing in a car park and cars having a crash, if you're doing traffic management and things like that, just things that you would never have thought about before. So on the top menu, you can go to the courses, and up will come all of the videos, and you can review them in your own time. So here they come, and Charlotte's uploaded them all. The pictures will come in just a moment. There we go. So you'll remember all of these things and the days that they ran and stuff. And they just kick off from working there, and you can do all the usual things you can do with YouTube and you know, maximize them and so on. Watch them on your phone or something. Guys, thank you very much indeed for your time.